Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Januszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great, Eric. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Taking steps to wrap up the year on a positive note.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely in a positive spirit. We had my little granddaughter's second birthday party on Saturday, which was amazing. And, there's all kinds of other fun things going on this year that we didn't get to do last year. So it's wonderful. And it's a beautiful day today. Just took a nice walk. So life is good.
Absolutely. It's good getting together with people in person. And now we're wrapping up the year, heading into a prosperous 2022.
That's the plan.
That's it. So with all of those P's lined up, we're going to go into what you do every day of the year and look at your 4 P's.
Yep. No, I appreciate doing this. I've prepared for days to do this presentation today. I'm just kidding. But anyway, basically, as everybody knows, I do motivational speaking along with business planning, consulting, and that kind of thing. And the way that I fell into this was doing a lot of personal development work myself over the years, reading cassettes, CDs, and now audible.com, which is where I got a whole lot of background. And in doing a lot of business planning and strategic planning for business owners, basically they need to have a strategic plan for their business, and most of them don't. And so one morning I just stood up in a meeting saying, hey, look, you have to have positivity to make things work. And I introduced myself as Chip Januszewski, the Happiness and Success GPS. It just flowed out of my mouth for the first time ever. And I said, you can't be successful unless you're happy first. And I came up with the formula: living life with the 4 P's, purpose, passion, positivity, and a plan is the formula for happiness and success. And the plan part was based upon the fact that these business owners didn't have a plan, but I quickly realized that every person needs a personal plan for their whole lives, all aspects, not just their careers, but basically personally. It could be spiritually, it could be physically, it could be friendships, family, vacations. You got to plan all that thing in and make life worthwhile, because if you don't have that going for you, what do you got going? So the purpose, obviously, is finding your purpose in life. And that's something where you got to sit down and do a self-analysis and figure out why you're here in the first place. What's your purpose and passion? Write down all the things you like to do, what you're good at, and so on and so forth. Maybe do this with a friend. But everybody is here to help out, make the world a better place in some way or fashion. And once you find that out for yourself and have that written down so that gets you out of bed in a positive manner every day, you got a whole lot going for you and your profession and everything else. So purpose and passion, that's what we need to look for. And obviously it has to be driven by positivity, which is your choice. And once you have that put together, then you can start working on that personal plan for your life and for your business and whatever else.
Absolutely. And purpose is actually becoming more and more important, because we've always looked at a purpose as something that gets you up in the morning, that gets you going, that you are trying to accomplish with your life. But now purpose is getting more important, not just on a personal level, but on a business level as well. People are drawn to businesses that serve a purpose. Employees are drawn to businesses that have a purpose. So when you're looking at that purpose, look at your personal life, obviously, but also look at what you do for business, because those purposes, it's no longer enough to be in business and serve a customer. Now those customers are looking for what bigger purpose does a business, solve? What bigger purpose, is being served by employees, by the customers, by the company as a whole. And that is becoming a way to attract new customers, new employees, and to keep employees. People want to feel that what they're doing with their money, with their shopping, with their job, with their career, all serve a purpose now. And by defining that purpose for yourself and your business, you can do a lot to expand your business and do more than just make ends meet.
Yeah, and that word plan, it's all encompassing. It starts with the person, it goes through the business. And I mean, we've talked a lot about building businesses. We talked about the E-Myth Revisited, and the very first thing there is the vision for the company in the first place. And then writing that down and making sure that all of your employees and your customers and your vendors know what the purpose of your business and what your vision is. Basically, is in other words, what are you doing to value add for your customers, for your employees, and everything else? Otherwise, basically, you're just going to work to cash a check every single week, and that's not the definition of success. So it's so important. They do go hand in hand, and it does start with that person in the mirror, and that's what's so important. I mean, we're talking about personal development here, and number one is appreciating that person in the mirror, realizing that we are all in this world for a purpose. We all have a lot to offer, and forget about what you think other people think about you, because everybody's worried about that. And the bottom line is, what other people think of you is none of your business. And you shouldn't take yourself so seriously because nobody else does.
Exactly. And yeah, I think the important word that you just touched on is value. You're adding value to your life. You're adding value to other people's lives, to your business, your community. It becomes so much more than just existing, than just getting from point A to point B. When you understand your purpose and look to add value to those around you, it becomes a much bigger life for you to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically, when I go through this training, I mean, I talk about the the dots for life. I talk about your journey, which is your life experiences and your influences so far, and they make you who you are right now. What's your mindset and your attitude? What are your virtues and beliefs? What's that personal plan? Which for most people is just to get up and live another day stuck in what I call the land of Sameville, which is just living another day, letting the outside world control your life. However, all we have is the present moment. And the cool thing about that present moment is every present moment is a new choice, a new opportunity to make something happen. And the way that it works, Jack Canfield's formula is very plain and simple, but it is reality. Event plus response equals outcome. And the only thing we own is our response, which is an action. A lot of people's responses are automatically their reactions, which is their initial way they feel about something and so on. And if your response can be a split second after that reaction, you can stay out of a lot of trouble. Sometimes the best response is just silence. So the way that this works is you have to have a pregnant pause between your initial reaction. Ask yourself, is it worth it to respond the way that I'm thinking to respond? And then respond accordingly. And obviously, the positivity, that's where that comes in, because if you have a positive perspective, that's what influences your response. And if your perspective is positive, that will force you to take that pregnant pause and say, is this really worth it? Because I have an opportunity right here to make a positive out of this moment with this person that I'm talking to, or with this position, or whatever it is, just by responding properly.
I'm going to actually take a step back because I think what you said about owning the response is important, but I think it's even bigger than you're saying, because when an event happens, you said, the response is the only thing we own, and that's not actually true, because if you own the response, you then have some control over the outcome. If you're just responding, out of instinct and, not thinking about it, not taking a moment, the outcome happens and you're stuck with it. But when you take that moment and frame your response, you have much greater control over that outcome. And when you have control over that outcome, you can actually steer what direction it's going in.
Absolutely, that's something that actually that's what I normally talk about, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have a little diagram that says positive response equals positive outcome, negative response equals negative outcome. If you don't like the outcome, you have to change your response, and that's absolutely, you're right on the money with that, because that's reality.
Right. It goes back to something that Einstein said. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different response. Well, this is a practical application of this. If you want to change the outcome, if you want to change the result, you have to change your action.
Absolutely. So the key to making this whole thing work is to get that positive perspective, which means we have to talk about positivity, which is the third P. And when I do my power positivity, turning obstacles into opportunities, I talk about the process of building and maintaining a positive attitude towards life, putting positivity in your life. And I talk about the tools for doing that, things like smiling. We talked about high fiving yourself in the mirror. There's other things like a victory log, gratitude journal, and so on and so forth. Putting together a gratitude practice, starting every day, every morning with a positive routine, and ending every day in grateful contemplation. And then I have a lot of fun talking about the throwouts. And these are the obstacles that we need to turn into opportunities. And this is where basically choosing the response comes into play. And we're talking about criticizing, complaining, gossiping, grudges, all these little things where you're pointing the finger at everybody but that person in the mirror, just kind of automatically. And if you can actually silence yourself and not respond to that whatsoever, you can have the positive outcome of avoiding problems just by doing that. Our mouths are probably the most deadly, dangerous weapons that we have.
Yeah, and you had showed me a program, and I'm blanking on the name of it. But it's you have the band around your wrist, and whenever you go to complain or you move it to the other wrist, and the idea is to not move it by not complaining. And I think you'll tell our listeners what the name of this was, but I think it's a fantastic program because it's an actual reminder right there of, oh, I should not be doing it. It's going to have a negative effect. And I know some people use something like this and they go a step further and actually just snap themselves with the band to give themselves a little reminder.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a little gimmick there. And actually, we last week when we were talking about favorite books, that was one of them. It's called A Complaint Free World by Pastor Will Bowen out of Kansas City, and he basically said what would happen if the world stopped complaining, and he came up with this uh, eliminate the complaint challenge. And basically, it's a 21-day challenge where you put a purple wristband on your wrist, and every time you complain, you have to switch wrists. And the challenge is going 21 straight days without complaining. And every time you do, you have to start all over again. And really, this is how you can take any bad habit and make a good habit out of it, because it's 4 simple steps that I think everybody understands. Number 1 is unconscious incompetence, which is the bad habit. And we are automatic complainers, and we have all these other bad habits that we have too. And if people don't believe that and they say, okay, I'm going to take the 21-day challenge, and within 5 minutes they've criticized something or they've had a negative reaction to something and switched wrists 3 times in the first 5 minutes, now they are conscious of the fact that they have a bad habit. That's called conscious incompetence. I am conscious of the fact that I have a bad habit. Then comes the 21 days, and this is the fun part when you're working on this. And maybe you're taking the challenge with a couple of other people, which is a good thing to do. Accountability is always a good thing. And you're sitting down for lunch one day and you're saying, okay, how's your day been so far? And normally when you sit down at lunch, you're going to enumerate everything that happened that was wrong in the morning. Now there's silence. And it's really fun when I talk about this to audiences because they all laugh and saying, oh, yeah. Because basically now that you're working on that, if you can keep silent about that and not complaining for 21 straight days, not switch wrists, you've gone for that's called conscious competence while you're working on that. And what you're doing is by doing that for 21 straight days, you've gone from unconscious incompetence, a bad habit, to unconscious competence, a good habit. You've turned that around automatically from complaining to not complaining. And that's why that book is so neat. And you can still go to, I think, a complaintfreeworld.org and actually get the book, get the wristbands, and take the challenge with other people. But yeah, it is really nice to have a little gimmick to keep you on track.
It really is because it gives you that reminder And the fact that it's 21 days, it gives you that time to actually develop the positive habit. Once you're doing it for 21 days, a habit actually becomes ingrained. So it works well that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as working on yourself and your own self esteem and the way that you're looking at yourself, it is really so important to do that too, because obviously, really taking off on yourself is complaining about yourself too, and that's not good either. And the bottom line is, we are all so worried about what other people think about us, and we actually sacrifice our own happiness and success just to please other people or avoid not fitting in. And it's so important to really work on that part yourself. And I would do like a 21-day challenge on that too, and start your day with that positive morning routine. Smile at yourself in the mirror and make a pact with yourself that you are going to try not to complain about yourself and to notice all these little things. And the best way to do this is practicing gratitude, which is part of the positivity thing. And it starts with noticing all the positive things in others. Because if you're going to stop complaining, all of a sudden you're going to start noticing positive things in others, complimenting them, and so on and so forth. That's really part of the 21-day program. And you're going to start doing that with yourself too, which is so, so important. Once you get that person in the mirror taken care of, the rest of it falls into place. So it's really important to work on that and just understand that we are all connected. And no matter what you believe in as far as God or anything else, we were all born good and we come from that. And we all have the ability to forgive each other. And there's nobody up there that's blaming us for anything. We're being forgiven for everything too, from heart to heart. That's really, really important to keep in mind, no matter what you believe or don't believe. That's really the way we are, because there's not a person out there that hasn't had a good feeling about something just by doing something positive for somebody else. Everybody knows it.
Exactly. And yeah, you mentioned spending time trying to fit in. I always tell my clients, don't bother trying to fit in. Nobody ever got ahead by following the crowd. Be authentic, be yourself, stand out. That's what gets people noticed, and that's what makes you you. Don't I think it was Judy Garland that said, don't be a second rate copy of somebody else.
Yep. No, and one of my favorite song lines is the old group America. And the name of the song is Tin Man. And it's about the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz. And he said, Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. One of my favorite phrases.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you've already got everything you need in you. You just have to let it out.
Yep, it's playing to your strengths, and when it comes to when you're putting together your personal plan, when it comes to your professional plan, that's so important. I mean, because when you are looking to find your career and then work your career, you have to sit down and identify where your talents are, what you like doing, and that kind of thing. Start exploring professions that are in alignment with who you are and put things together that way. And that will help you a whole lot as far as finding the career that you're looking for. Look for the company again. We talked about vision and purpose for companies and how they treat their employees and what their vision is as far as how the company is doing better for the world. And these are the things that you need to spend time looking at. And if you next time you feel like going online and looking at Facebook and look at all the negativity there, start looking at companies and seeing what positive things are going on that way. And it can turn yourself around. I mean, you become what you expose yourself to. One of the things that I talk about when I talk about the throwouts, probably the biggest thing you can throw out is the negative media and all this negativity that's around you. Put that in perspective and just look at some headlines every once in a while, whatever, but don't let that become your life, because you don't have a chance if you let that dominate you.
Yeah, no, we're bombarded by constant negativity, and it is important to shut that off. You know, especially if that means, turning off the evening news, not scrolling through a Facebook feed, wherever it is that negativity is coming from. it's impossible to not let it affect you at all. So at some point, you do just need to turn it off, return to yourself. You know, I'm a big proponent of meditating, to really bring out a positive mindset. But you need that silence, whether it's going for a walk, meditating, but turning off that negative influence.
Yeah, and that silence is that pregnant pause between your reaction and your response. It can be that short. And that is a form really of meditation. It's just turning that off for a second and putting things in perspective. So, again, these things are all related. Uh, but again, one of the best things that you can do in the present moment is make yourself positive. If you get through this complaint free world challenge, then you're going to start looking for the way to respond positively in most of your present moment activities. And if you do that, you're going to make people's days, even though you don't know that. The bottom line is if you walk down the street smiling, I mean, I just took a walk and today's a really nice day. So a lot of people have smiles on their face, but I always smile at people walking down the street. Today I said, wow, what a beautiful December day. And everybody chuckles a little bit and says, yeah, it is. Waving at people in the car, thanking people in the grocery store for taking care of you. The bottom line is there aren't too many people that run into me and I'm smiling at them that aren't going to walk away with some type of at least positive experience for that second. And that is contagious. You know that. Everybody knows that. If you get in a room where you have positive ideas going on and positive things going on, all of a sudden, all of the baggage, all of what's going on for the rest of the day and so on and so forth, it's gone and it's overwhelmed by the positivity. And that's something that you can turn on at any second, realizing that life is not always going to be that way. We're all human, so we're going to run into the negative things. But, I call myself the Happiness and Success GPS. My other title is just the voice of awareness. And if you take nothing else away from this podcast today, it's just understand that every single present moment is an opportunity for you to use positivity to make something good happen.
Yeah, that's so important to remember. And, on the flip side of that, you don't know what somebody else is going through. You don't know what's going on in their lives. By giving them a moment of positivity, you're not just being positive yourself, you're spreading that. Um, as an example, when we travel over the holidays, we always make it a point to be extra nice and extra positive to the guys in the toll booth who are working over the holiday. And I mean, let's face it, this is not a great job to begin with, but they're stuck. And, yeah, we may be stuck in traffic. We may be taking longer than we'd like for some place to go, but we're still going somewhere we want to be. So to take an extra moment and just wish them a happy holidays, say something nice to them, get them to smile while they're making change. It's so important that you spread that because you never know what's going on in someone else's life. And that moment may be more important to them than you ever realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're in the holiday season now. There's lots of people out and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of people that are working so hard. A lot of people are working second and third jobs right now just to make things meet. And yet, most people, if there's a line and they're waiting in line, they start complaining about how long it's taking. When if you realize what's going on out there and how so many businesses are lacking employees and they would take more employees if they were ever out there to get jobs, restaurants and so on and so forth. Uh, there's just a whole lot of impatient. Again, this is the automatic bad habit, the complaining type of thing, where if we all worked on that, this would solve itself. But make it a point during the day, especially if you see somebody in front of you that did that. When you go up to the clerk who's checking you out, just say something nice to them, smile at them, thank them for packing your bag. Just do anything that you possibly can. And for that one moment, they're going to be smiling too. And the bottom line is, if somebody in back of you sees you do that, it is contagious. And all of a sudden, you can actually change that trend around from negative to positive just by doing that. And now that I've mentioned that to you, I'm sure that you've seen that happen, all of you folks out there, where all of a sudden, with a snap of a finger, that happens. You can also turn it the other way around with a negative thing where people get on, the pity bandwagon too. So it's your choice. Choose positivity. That's what these 4Ps are all about.
Absolutely. There's an anchor that I watch on the news, and when she's talking about traveling during the holidays, she always uses this phrase, pack your patience. You have to be patient when things happen. And, nobody is traveling to make your life more miserable. It's just a lot of people are doing a lot of things at the same time. And as you said, restaurants are understaffed, stores are understaffed. So when you go out, pack your patience and be understanding of what other people are going through and give them that smile, give them that positive moment.
Absolutely. Again, every single moment is a new opportunity, and the holiday season is a great time to start it. Even if you don't want to take the 21-day challenge, take the moment to moment challenge.
Exactly. And very often it only takes that moment to make a difference. If you take that moment before you respond, if you take a moment to be positive with someone. Um, I was talking to someone the other day about the Al Pacino movie, Any Given Sunday. And there's a very famous speech in this movie where he talks about life is a game of inches, and those inches are everywhere. And it's true. It's just 1 second too early, too late, you miss the pass. 1 inch too slow, too quick, you're not where you need to be. It's that small. And when you take one of those moments, one of those inches, and make the effort for someone else, even if it's just this tiny little effort, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what would you say is the big takeaway from this episode?
Well, again, all I am is the voice of awareness of this, and nothing that I've said to you folks today is rocket science or anything new to you. They are all what I used to call, I learned this in BNI, BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious. And these have been around for a long, long time. One of my favorite, and you can Google this, just go online and Google life's 3 greatest treasures. And they were written by Lao Tzu 2,500 years ago. He says, I have just 3 things to teach you. And this is really the key to the present moment and how you handle things. The 3 things to teach you are: number 1, simplicity. We all overcomplicate things. Number 2 is patience. And what we talked about today in the forum, that's your space between your reaction and your response. And then number 3, very importantly, if you want to make other people like you and if you want to change the world, treat everybody with compassion. So it's simplicity, patience, compassion. And he says, and he finishes, and I truly believe this, these are life's 3 greatest treasures: simplicity, patience, compassion. Happy holidays, everybody.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is the ease that you can do this with. It's, take a moment, give a smile. These are small things, but those small things add up. And the more you do them, the greater the impact. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture that's going to take you all year to accomplish. Take those moments whenever they occur. So I'd like to wish all of our listeners a happy holidays. We will be back in January. You, of course, have been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us each episode, and you'll catch us in the new year at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember to make this week your best week ever. Make next week even better. We'll see you in the new year.